Hello! Welcome to the Cleveland Marathon Podcast. I'm your host, Adam, and I'm here today with my co-host, Jen. Jen, we sure have ourselves an episode today.
I'm so excited for today's episode. We've been talking about this for weeks, and I cannot wait for you to introduce who our guest is today, Adam.
And before we start today's episode, please remember to like and subscribe to the Cleveland Marathon YouTube and Spotify channels. Well, Jen, as we both know, the Cleveland Marathon is Sunday, May 18th. And one of my favorite sayings in all of sports is any given Sunday. What I mean by that is anybody can be a hero. And, you know, obviously I've been getting ready for the fall. It's been a lot of mental work. It's been a lot of toughness. And on today's show, we have somebody who definitely knows a thing or two about staying mentally strong, breaking through those mental walls. Not only did he break through mental walls, made a career of being a wall, did so well that he became a permanent resident of Canton, Ohio. And on today's show, Cleveland, this is somebody you absolutely love. This is an individual that we've all cheered for on many, many Brown Sundays, an individual that you all love. And frankly, he is one of the greatest Cleveland athletes of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Cleveland Marathon Podcast, Joe Thomas.
Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to be here. And with an introduction like that, how could I not come on this show and have a little bit of time to talk with my friends Adam and Jen about all things Cleveland and the amazing Cleveland Marathon that's coming up in not too many days now. Getting close there.
Joe, I'm glad I was able to do an intro for you. I was, as you can tell, very nervous to make sure that I made sure that Cleveland's Iron Man got the introduction that he deserves. So first things first, how are you feeling? You've had yourself one heck of a week.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. All things considered, I was actually out in Cleveland earlier in this week. I was at University Hospitals getting a hip replacement. 40 years old, but the NFL has a strange way of taking extra years off your joints. And so for me, the timing was right. I was having a lot of issues with hip and back pain and spasms, and quality of life was going down. It was hard to stand. It was hard to sit. Certainly wasn't running in any marathons. But I think for me, just in my 40s, being a dad of 4 kids, I really wanted to be able to be up, run around with them, throw the ball, do everything that you'd want to do with your kids as a dad. And really the only option for me was putting that new hip in. And so I did it on Monday, and I'm back walking around. This is like 4 days later. I'm feeling really good. The doctors at UH did a great job, not only with the surgery, but taking care of me and sending me home with my marching orders about what I need to do to get myself back on the proverbial field, which for me is the backyard with the kiddos. And so I feel like I'm on the right track right now and feeling good enough to be able to run around with the kids just a little bit, almost maybe limp around, but also getting back to talking to my friends and promoting the great city of Cleveland.
And for the audience, University Hospitals is the official medical provider of both the Cleveland Marathon and the Cleveland Browns. The good people at University Hospitals, Drzezinski Sports Medicine Institute, I'm so glad that they were able to take care of you, Joe.
They do a great job, and it really kind of stemmed from their time as the team doctors of the Browns, which they still are. But just building that trusting relationship with your doctors, with your orthopedic surgeons, knowing that the team of doctors that I worked with the Browns, Dr. Voos, Dr. Salata, Dr. Cup, who are at University Hospitals, and knowing that they have your best interest in mind and they're going to give you the best advice possible when you do need to make that tough decision on, when's the timing right to get my joint replaced and where should I go to get the best care possible for me. And it was a no-brainer for me to go to University Hospitals, to go with the Browns team and the doctors affiliated with the Browns. And I couldn't be happier just as far as being 4 days out with how I'm feeling, with the care I got, and then the surgery and attention that I got on the operation day.
Well, Joe, as we were getting ready for today's episode, I have something to show you that you're going to have a pretty good laugh at. I was prepping I was seeing what kind of fun stuff I can put up, like obviously the Brownies elf with the marathon medal.
Of course.
And I forgot that I had this. This is a bobblehead of you
Oh,
from the
baby.
Monsters. And as you can tell, the university hospital's logo and everything. And I'm like, this is the universe talking.
I love
But
it.
I'm no medical professional. But I will say, take my advice. I don't know if today's the day to play any ice hockey, but that's up to you. So I'll let you. But I cracked up when I found that. I'm like, oh
Yep.
my gosh,
He's
what
just pulling
timing is
out all
that?
the memorabilia out there.
That's right. All those bobbleheads are fun. I've done a few different bobblehead nights for different sporting events. Did one for the Monsters. There's a minor league baseball team here in Wisconsin that did one, and the Browns have done a couple. And it's always fun seeing the collectibles that fans have picked up over the years. And the bobbleheads always seem to be kind of towards the top of that list of favorite collectibles that fans pull out, because you get to see the different iterations of what the bobblehead people think I looked like at that time. So yeah, that one's a pretty good one. That one actually looked like I did back in the day when they put that together for the Monsters.
Well, Jen is the reason that the producing and got you involved. And so, Jen, if you want to kick off today's show, the mic is yours. You deserve this moment.
Yeah, so Joe, we were talking about the course and the course, the Cleveland Marathon course, every single race, the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, the full, every single one of them runs by the Cleveland Browns Stadium. So no matter what race any athlete with the marathon weekend participates in, they're going to run by the stadium. And it's always a highlight for everybody to be able to do that. Everybody has memories about the stadium. Everybody has memories about Cleveland. And we were talking about who can we have on the podcast, if we were really dreaming big, who could our guest be? And I was like, I'm asking Joe Thomas. And the worst he could do is not answer me. Well, funny story, backstory. I said, well, Joe Thomas follows me on Instagram. I'm just going to message him and see what he says. And it was funny because I went back and it was October 1st, 2023. You were put on the Ring of Honor at the stadium, smashed the guitar that day. And I was at that game. I tagged you in it in videos from that day. And so that was when you started following me on Instagram. But I was like, I'm just going to ask because Cleveland loves you. We love the Browns, and having you on the podcast was a no-brainer. And so when you agreed, Adam and I were losing our minds.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're doing whatever we need to do to make this happen. So we are so excited to talk to you today and just share that with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be part of the podcast. And for me, the love that I have for the city of Cleveland, for everything that the fans have given to me and the people of Cleveland throughout my time as a player, but just also as a citizen living out there, raising three of my kids were born out there, all the great memories that we have. And so any chance I get to shine a little spotlight on the city and the great things that they're doing in Northeast Ohio, I'm going to jump at that every chance I get.
Well, Joe, I am actually in full training mode for the full.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
So I am doing the full marathon. I'm nervous. And you, of all people, mental toughness. You dealt with the dog days of summer in Berea. I know I am far from the only person that needs some motivation from Cleveland's Ironman. How can I keep my head from going places and going crazy during this training process? What did you do during your playing career to, keep pushing forward?
It's interesting. I've got some friends that are in the marathon world. I know I don't look like it, but I do have a lot of skinny friends that like to run, including actually my wife ran in the Cleveland half marathon when I was a player out there. And it was
Oh, that's
one
awesome.
of the coolest things that I was able to be a part of. Obviously, you guys know what the scene looks like on the day of the marathon. There's people everywhere. There's so many people that are encouraging their wife, their mom, their girlfriend, their husband, whatever it is, who that person is, that's put a significant part of their life on hold to be able to train for this moment, and to see them kind of succeed in their own personal battles. It's such a cool story. I was a track athlete growing up and have always been a big fan of those individual track and field sports because it is so much different than what I'm used to on the football field, right? Because it's you versus the stopwatch, right? It's you every single day having that discipline to get yourself out of bed, to follow your training routine, to put yourself on that path to being able to be there on race day, to have success, to be able to run the race, but also enjoy running the race and feel like I've trained enough where I can enjoy this now and it's not going to be complete misery for 26.2 miles. And so for me, I think there is a little bit of corollary carryover between what we did for an NFL season and training for a marathon, because our practice for a season really starts way back in April and March, sometimes starting on this little training plan and this program, right? And we're getting ready and getting a little bit better every single day leading up to the start of the NFL season, which is kind of like, the marathon day, right? And so for me, if I looked at, oh my gosh, I've got 65 more practices to go through, I've got 100 more training sessions, I'll never be able to do that. Every single one of them is so hard and so miserable, and it beats my body up so much. You're ready to quit right there. But the little trick that I always learned was, hey, just look at today. Let's just look at today as its own day and worry about tomorrow. All right, what do I have to accomplish today? And so if it's, I got to go out and I got to run 10 miles and I got to hit this pace and I need to do these certain things to keep up with my training, great. Then you look at that and you go, you know what, I can accomplish today. I can do that. That is something that I am more than happy to be able to check off my list. And when I'm done with it, I know I've already associated the feels that I'm going to get of that runner's high of accomplishing that task for today. And so it's easy to get yourself up, get motivated, accomplish that day, and then do whatever else you got to do to enjoy the rest of the day. And then wake up and then think about, okay, now today's a new day. Now I got to focus on right now what I'm doing here, because you definitely don't want to get your sights too far down on the horizon, because it is quite an undertaking to be able to train yourself and to get ready and put all those miles in to get ready for a marathon, or all those practices in to get ready for a season. But the old adage is, it happens one step at a time. That's how you run a race, how you run a marathon, how you run a mile. It's just that first step, then the next step. And that's really the mindset that always helped me as I was getting ready for a season, and certainly will help anybody out there that's maybe dealing with the doldrums of getting through the middle part of your training as you're getting ready for the big marathon day.
I love that. Just smaller, obtainable goals. You've got the big picture down the road. You know it's coming, but those smaller goals each week, just breaking that up. I love that.
I already feel better. So thank you so much.
Yes, we did it.
We did it. I'm going to just get off this podcast immediately and go run.
There you go.
But I mean, all joking aside, you've played in countless amount of football games. Obviously, before the Browns, you had your career in Wisconsin, and obviously, your high school career, and probably even down to, early days of Pee Wee. So going from, start to finish in a career, how do you keep your body from fueling so that way you can keep on going to the next level?
Well, I think it's really important to be in tune, mind and body, right, on the same page, always understanding, where am I? I may not be injured, but I can feel my gait is not exactly the way it needs to be. It's not perfectly balanced. I can feel that maybe my soleus is getting tight on one side, and I need to make sure that I stay ahead of that, because I don't want this little bit of soreness to lead to maybe a wear and tear injury or some tendonitis or whatever it is down the line. So for me as an athlete, it's just the same as like a runner, being really, really in tune to what your body is telling you, what it needs right now, and trying to stay ahead of all those things with rehab. One of the things that I did a lot during my career was yoga, because I thought it was a really good chance for me to sort of check in with where I was and all the little parts of my body that add up to me being a football player, and just always having that little like oil change checkup, tune up, right? Like on a weekly basis, figuring out where am I, and then trying to figure out, hey, if there's something that I need to take care of, let's take care of it now before it becomes an injury, so that I can stay ahead of it, so I don't lose any time training as I'm trying to get back from some type of injury, which I could have prevented by just staying ahead of things.
What about that mental part of recovering from an injury, Joe? Because I mean, as a runner, I've dealt with my own injuries, and that's a hard part, is being down. Like, is there you can do everything you can to prevent it from happening, and then something could happen that causes it. What do you say to people with that?
Yeah, I think for the most part, when people feel down or they feel depressed, a lot of times that's because of a lack of control, especially as a runner, as an athlete. Like, control is such a big part of our world, right? Because we're kind of trying to control our training every single day. We're controlling the nutrition that we're putting in our body, not only to fuel ourselves for our workouts, but also to fuel the recovery, to make sure that my muscles are getting all the nutrients they need to be able to recover from one workout to the next. I make sure that I'm sleeping the right way so that my body has time at night to hit my markers of deep sleep and REM sleep and my time in bed, and making sure I'm following my heart rate variability to see where I am recovered wise. And so you have this huge plan for yourself. You know what the map looks like, but when the map changes, or all of a sudden you don't see part of the map anymore because you have that injury, you run into something that's out of your control, it can really put you in the dumps a little bit mentally because you've lost that control. So the first thing I would tell somebody is, all right, we got to find a way to regain that control, right? Because then it gives you that roadmap again to, how do I get to my goals? How do I still accomplish that goal? And so specifically when you do have that injury, it's all right, I need to find out as quickly as possible, what's my injury? What do I need to do to rehab it? And how long is that going to take? And then to be able to adjust your training schedules, adjust your nutrition, potentially adjust any rehab or prehab that you're doing to be able to accommodate this new reality that you're living in. And then you get to take back that control of your planning, of your training for this marathon. And then all of a sudden it feels attainable again. And then it feels like you're moving down that road to recovery. And so if you can figure out that timeline as quick as possible and understand what's going to go into this, that is going to be the most important thing for regaining control, getting yourself out of the dumps and pointing yourself back down that roadmap to where you need to go to reach your goal, to accomplish whatever you want to do athletically, whether it's running a marathon or playing in an NFL game or making it to the Super Bowl or whatever your goals are, or maybe just walking your dog like me, just being able to get outside, walk your dog. That's going to feel really good as I come back from this hip replacement.
Cleveland, you can't argue against Joe Thomas.
Don't argue with me. It's not worth it. Just ask my kids.
But that's such great advice, Joe. Thank you so much. And, it's funny you just brought up the uncontrollables. As Jen mentioned earlier in the episode, the Brown Stadium is on the Cleveland Marathon course. You and I both know, Jen knows, everyone in Cleveland knows, you can't control the weather on game day.
That's right.
My saying has always been, unless your name is God or Goddard after the late great Dick Goddard.
Good night, Dick.
Don't know. Yeah, exactly. You don't
guy.
know what the weather's going to be like in Cleveland. So we've had horrible weather. We've had beautiful weather. We've had everything from snow to sun.
Hail.
Hail. How did you prepare for anything?
I think football teaches you so much about life and so many great life lessons. And one of the things you hear football players talk a lot about, and coaches, is mental toughness, right? And I think your average fan, maybe somebody that is a football fan but doesn't have a deep athletic background, thinks about mental toughness being, all right, you're on the field and you're figuring out a way to play or practice at your best even when things are tough. But mental toughness is also about learning how to control your mind and where your mind goes, because a lot of times where your mind goes is going to be, it's going to lead you to one outcome or the other. And so in the instance of weather, if you show up on race day and all you've been preparing for or thinking about is some beautiful 70-degree day with no wind, and it's one of those classic Cleveland days, it's 40 and it's raining and the wind's blowing sideways, and all of a sudden you allow that to dictate your mood, and then you're sad and you're depressed because it's not what you expected, not what you'd hoped for. And then all of a sudden you're already leading yourself down that path to failure. Whereas as you're getting ready for a game or a marathon and you fully are preparing yourself, you know what, it is Cleveland. There's a really strong chance that the weather might not be great. How am I going to prepare myself so that I can be at my best no matter what the conditions are? Now, maybe that's changing what you're wearing. Maybe that's changing some of your hydration routines based on the heat. Maybe that's potentially just changing your shoes if slipperiness is potentially an issue, or you want more grippiness if the pavement's going to be a little bit wet. Whatever that looks like, just being ready and being prepared so that your mind space is not being taken up worrying about something that's not in your control, like the weather. Because the last thing you want to do is going into a race or going into a game is to be worrying about something and taking up space in your brain with something that you don't have any control over, that is dictated by God or Goddard. I like that. And so figuring out before you get there, like, what are the possibilities and how do I prepare for them? So then when they happen, it's merely a matter of just selecting one option or the other. And then now I don't think about it ever again. So I can focus on all the other things that I need to do to prep for that race day, from my normal routine with warm-ups and all my apparatus that I need to bring to get myself ready to run, whatever you need to do from a mind standpoint to get yourself into the rhythm of the pace that you want to run at. All those little things that you need your mind to be working on, which helps keep your mind busy, but it also helps prep yourself and prep your body for the exertion that it's about to give. And I think doing as much of that in practice is really important so that your mind and your body are getting ready for that as you're practicing. So on race day, you can just enjoy it. You can sit back, you can enjoy all the prep work that you did, and you can enjoy going out and running your best race.
Write that down, Adam. Did you bring your notebook today?
There you go.
Yeah, it's actually it's right here.
Yeah. Write it
He's
down.
ready.
It's the
It's all
best.
right here.
Because it's so true. You can't control it. And the amount of mental energy you're going to put into worrying about something like the weather is just not going to be worth it. So, not in Cleveland.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing too. Like I
Yeah.
just came back from the Super Bowl a couple months ago, and I was working on the sidelines for NFL events. And one of the things we talked about with a lot of the guys getting ready for the game was how do they control their mental energy exertion before the game starts? Because the halftime show at the Super Bowl is a little bit longer, like the game's a little bit more drawn out. So it's a longer game than they're used to. But on top of that, they're obviously going to be a lot more excited, right? And I think people that haven't experienced it often don't give enough credit to how much energy drain can be from the overwhelming excitement and enthusiasm leading up to an event. And for a guy that's playing in the Super Bowl specifically, it's like, I want to make sure that I have all my energy from when the kickoff starts until the last whistle blows. And whatever it's going to take to be able to control that energy as a steady ramp up to kickoff, that's what I want to do, because I don't want to go out there and do a warm up that I'm not used to because I'm just so full of energy. I'm so excited. I don't want to burn myself out by thinking about a million things that are out of my control and getting all excited about the moment, because you're going to find yourself half wore out before the marathon or the game even starts. And so figuring out a way to try to control those emotions going into it is really, really important. And one of the things that people in all walks of life do to prepare for those big moments is try to practice like it is the game. If you get an opportunity before the marathon to just walk through all of your steps, everything that you're going to do on race day, where you're going to park, where you're going to go to get signed in, what you're going to wear, just going through all those steps at least one time, so that when you're there on race day, you feel like you've been there, done that a little bit. And it sort of maybe rubs off a little bit of that excess energy that you would bring going into it with the fear of not knowing exactly how everything's going to flow leading up to it, right? Because there's always that fear of, oh, did I get signed up in time? Am I in the right spot? Is my family okay?
Yeah.
The people that are coming here to cheer for me, you're worried about all these other people.
Yeah.
But trying to get that taken care of beforehand. So on race day, you can just focus on me and what I need to do to have that mental focus and that mental clarity leading up to the event, so that I can, when that gun goes off, I can boom, start using that energy that I've saved up and I've trained for, and I'm not wasting anything before I absolutely need to.
Minimize the surprise.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And Adam's actually been doing course studies of the course. So anyone can come out and run pieces of the course with him. But I think that's so true, because even for me running the Cleveland Marathon back to back, I feel much more comfortable showing up on race day in Cleveland than I would a race I have not done before. So I think that there's so much to that.
Now, when we talk about excitement and getting people just going and cheering, we always tell people to come down to the Cleveland Marathon to cheer on your runners. Joe, you of all people know how important is crowd support.
Yeah, I'll say, after watching my wife run the Cleveland Half Marathon, she mentioned to me how great it was to have me and some of the kids be there to support her, especially at certain points in the race. And so if you can work with your support team a little bit, getting ready for that race and saying, hey, look, in my training about mile 10, that's where I'm starting to feel a little bit of fatigue. This is where I'll probably be So if you could be there to kind of cheer me on and give me that little boost that I need right here, that would be awesome. Maybe again 4 or 5 miles later. And just with the people that are going to be there as part of your support team, like come up with a little plan for them of, hey, this is where you can see me, this is where I need you, this is where I really want that support, that energy that comes from somebody else that I'm definitely going to need. And I felt it myself, just being there to help support my wife Annie. It was so special. I mean, I had tears in my eyes when I got to see her run, because you see all the work and the effort that they put into getting ready for this big moment. And then you see them on race day, and it's such a special feeling because you're sharing in all those beautiful emotions and feels that they're having on that day. And you know that you're a big part of that support for them to be able to accomplish a really big goal. For a lot of people, just being able to run one marathon is on their bucket list. And so I think it's so cool to be part of that process and to have a plan going in, because it's going to give you peace of mind as the runner, but also the people that are there to support you. They're going to feel like they're an intricate part of the success that you will have on race day. And so having that whole plan and putting it all together makes everybody feel like we're one big team and we're all putting together to accomplish a common goal, which is, hey, let's run this race, our best race. Let's make sure that we're all proud of the times we get, and let's all have a lot of fun doing it.
You know what I love about that answer? You played a Hall of Fame career, and you didn't even mention the cheering that people had for you. Your heart went straight to your family.
Yeah.
And this is why Cleveland loves you, because you have always been like Cleveland's proud uncle. Like, you're a part of the family. You've cheered everybody on, and not once your mind goes, oh yeah, what did people do for me? You went for the people of Cleveland. And I can tell you, I'm already just, on that answer. And the truth is, there are so many runners that are getting ready for this race. And this is why everybody has some heart, some memory, and you just embrace why you are who you are. And I absolutely love that.
I appreciate that. One of the things that I talked about during my Hall of Fame speech was my why. Why did I go out for 10 and a half years, play every single snap, even though we'd never made the playoffs once? And there was plenty of seasons where we weren't making the playoffs, and we knew it in week 10. So there was really nothing to play for. But I always said there's always something to play for me, because I was always playing for my teammates, right? I was always playing for them because their success on the football field mattered more to me than my own success did. And I felt like that's what motivated me a lot more than if you were just somebody that was motivated by your own personal success. Because I think in life, if you're doing something for somebody else, whether that be your kids or your spouse or your parents or a brother or sister or a friend or whatever that is, like that's way more powerful when things get tough. It's easy to do stuff for yourself when things are going well, but when it's mile 20 and you're really, really tired and your body's telling you don't do it anymore, and your foot hurts because you maybe feel like you're starting to aggravate something, like it's easy to quit when the only accountability is to yourself. But when I feel accountability to my buddies, Joel Batonio, my left guard who I'm playing next to, David Njoku, my tight end, and I feel like, hey, I need to be out here for these guys, because when I'm at my best, then that gives them the ability to be at their best, to showcase their talents the most, to be able to help this team as a whole of brothers find victory on the other side. Like that's what helps you pull through when things are challenging, when things are tough and you don't want to go anymore. And I think it's so important to make it always about somebody else when you're trying to achieve something athletically, even in individual sports, right? Because marathon's an individual sport, but we all count on all the people around us. And especially if you're running with somebody, like that's such an important part of all track and field training, but then also on race day, like, hey, find somebody that you can run with, that you can encourage each other, that you can know that, hey, right now my buddy is struggling a little bit. I need to pick him up or her up. And you know what? Vice versa. When I'm struggling, I have the confidence knowing that I got a buddy that's going to pick me up and help us grind through those tough moments. And then when it's all said and done, we're going to feel an even greater sense of accomplishment because we did it together and we relied on each other. And that's a really beautiful thing about all sports, but especially like some of those individual sports where you're really relying on one person to really pick you up in those low moments.
Cleveland's family.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And speaking of family, I do want to take a moment and recognize an individual that both the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Marathon said goodbye to Mr. Jim Donovan. He was personal friends with Jack and Bernie's staff, the owners of the Cleveland Marathon. I had the honor of going on his show about 10 years ago, and he was the sweetest man. He was beyond awesome to be interviewed by, and just an absolute, genuine, good guy. Joe, do you have anything that you would like to say on the Cleveland Marathon podcast about Mr. Donovan?
Well, I think Jim was very special to everybody that wore a Browns uniform because he was such an integral part of everything that we did, obviously being the voice of the Browns for all those years. But I think he was perfect at reflecting everything that is the values of the people of Northeast Ohio and Cleveland.
Yes.
He was genuine. Yes. He was professional. He was classy. He always represented the Browns with the utmost of respect, doing a job that was not always easy. When you're the voice of a team that's had a lot of losing, it's really difficult to always accurately reflect the tenor and the tone of the fan base while still doing the job that you have to do, which is calling the game for the Browns radio network. And I thought he was just a professional unlike this business probably has ever seen, because he felt like he was so approachable. And I think that was part of the allure and part of the reason the Browns fans loved him so much. And he was so good at his job because he felt like he was your buddy in that booth telling you about the game in the most amazing way. He was such a wordsmith, the way he used his words, and so flawless in his presentation. And he always hit the perfect tone, but he also always perfectly represented what it feels like to be a Browns fan. When he was in that booth, he hit the emotions that you were feeling. And he's already dearly missed, and he'll be remembered forever as the voice of the Cleveland Browns. And it was such a sad loss and so sudden, even though he'd been battling cancer for a long time, because he was another selfless guy, right? He never made it about him. And so I think even right towards the end, nobody really knew how bad it was. I mean, he was still showing up to work every single week, doing a fantastic job on the broadcast. You'd still see him in the locker rooms because he was the Cleveland Browns. Like, that was his life. That was his identity. That's how everybody saw him. And he never wanted to give that up, no matter what happened. And the team and the city and the area desperately miss him, and will try to remember him as many different ways as possible, because he's the type of person that when he's in your life, you never forget him.
I completely agree with everything you just said. And as this is our first season of this podcast, and everything we do from the technical standpoint to the producing, is this at Jim Donovan status? And he was the best in the business. And as I mentioned, he was very, very close with Jack and Bernie's staff. He will always be a part of this community, and his memory is just one of the greatest individuals this city will ever see. With that being said, Joe, we cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your very busy schedule and your recovery for coming on today's episode of the Cleveland Marathon podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. I love talking about all sports, all athletic endeavors, and anytime I can shine the spotlight on Cleveland, I'm really excited to do that. So I can't wait to hear how you guys do in the marathon this year.
If you're healed up well enough, Joe, you are more than welcome to come out and spectate and cheer. Bring your cowbells, bring your signs, have the kids get signs and markers.
And trust me, there are a lot of runners that are going to be watching this episode, and they're like, if Joe Thomas is cheering me on, I got to do it. Like, it's going to be awesome. And I would like to thank you and University Hospital's Drzezinski Sports Medicine Institute for being amazing sponsors and the great work that they provide for athletes. Everybody, thank you guys so much for getting this episode together. And Joe, thank you again. And to the audience, definitely give Joe a follow on Instagram. One of the greatest Cleveland athletes of all time, Hall of Famer. Joe, you're stuck with us forever. You're now officially a part of the Cleveland Marathon family, and we cannot thank you enough. To the audience, please remember to like and subscribe on the Cleveland Marathon YouTube and Spotify channel. Once again, Cleveland, I'm your host, Adam, here with my co-host, Jen. Joe, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on again, guys. And if you want to follow me, I'm Joe Thomas 73 on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow some of the things that I'm doing in my life. I can't wait to follow up and hear how race day was for everybody here.
Well, thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Joe.
Joe. All right, we'll see you later, Cleveland.